Welcome, everyone, to the Montessori Family Alliance. Wow, it's getting close to the holidays. Thank you for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. So, our topic today is the calm of January. And our sort of subtitle is the comfort of routine and consistency. So, I wanted to get us started today with this little reflection, maybe, or observation. I want you to think back to before Thanksgiving and think about your child's behavior. Think about how were they able to play by themselves? Were they really good about, trying to be polite? And were they into their routine of what they do every day and how they do it? And then think about this holiday season that we're now in and think about what their behavior is like and what kinds of things are different at home now. Like maybe you're having special meals with company. So you're having visitors, maybe even stay overnight visitors to your home. I know at my home, my son and his family come and they stay for 2 weeks. So imagine my 3-year-old grandson by the end of the 2 weeks. Imagine me by the end of the 2 weeks. Anyways, visitors, special meals, gifts, presents, foods that they don't normally eat, like, I don't know, candy for breakfast, hot chocolate with marshmallows, things that can really throw our bodies and our minds off. And so they get really kind of disruptive and sometimes cranky and not as cooperative, maybe, as they typically would. What we notice in the classrooms, and this is what we're going to talk about today, and what I'd like you to pay attention to when you get into January is we notice that there's this wonderful phenomenon that we call the calm of January in the classrooms. And so Christine and I are going to talk with you today about what we see in the classrooms when those children come back after being away for a couple of weeks in a very different home situation than what they normally would have during the rest of the school year. So Christine, welcome. Christine's been here many times. See, I don't even think I have to introduce you anymore because you're practically a co-host, right? Christine is the founder of Montessori Now. She's an educational consultant. She's run at least one school of her own that she founded. She's run two, right? And is a Montessori educator. She just does a whole bunch of stuff. And so we're so glad that she can come because she has lots to share with us. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and welcome to all of you who are listening in today. So yes, this idea of the calm of January. So oftentimes we will see in the Montessori classroom that when the children return back to school after break, that it's a period of really being settled, of really in a different kind of way engaging in whatever activity they have chosen. So there are a couple of photographs here of some elementary work, of some geography work. I love how this little fellow has his coat on in the classroom.
Sometimes we're just so excited to get into the classroom, we don't even take our jackets off.
Right. So what this might look like at home is that your child is very interested in just having deeper engagement with whatever activity it is they're doing at home. You might notice a difference in not the length of the concentration necessarily, though you might notice that, but it's the quality of the concentration that is different. And one of the things that Dr. Montessori observed is that when a child is very deeply able to concentrate on a work that, or we call it work, an activity, that child finds meaningful, that at the end of that, when they have gone through that cycle and they're ready to put that activity away, that there's a calmness, there's a joyfulness that many of us as Montessorians have observed in the same way that Dr. Montessori observed it. So that might be something that you could look for at home.
Yeah, and I think one other thing, Christine, that I would add to that, I love it that you talk about the concentration because that's so important to us. But the other thing is that you might notice is that they are playing by themselves a little bit more. They don't need you to be with them so much because they're so deeply engaged in whatever activity it is that they're doing at home and are concentrating. And so they're not as maybe clingy or just wanting a lot of attention from you, which can happen during the holidays at home, certainly.
All right. Another expression that Dr. Montessori used, that she referred to, was this explosion of learning. And she explained that as when a child has reached a certain level of readiness, that isn't really something that we as adults can have a great direct impact on. We can have impact in terms of what kind of environment we set up at home or in the classroom, what kind of independence we allow. But at that moment that the child is ripe and ready for, we will often see this explosion of learning in a number of areas. A really quick and easy example of this is a toddler who one day gets up and walks.
Right.
And what is it that's different about that day? Who knows?
That's right.
Some brain development happened. And the child who had been toddling or had been holding hands or had been scooching along on the couch or something like that, all of a sudden it all kind of fits together, the brain and the movement and the body coordination, and it happens. And it's the same way with reading, with spelling, with writing. This little toddler here is matching animal objects with photographs of the real animal. And that is a stage of abstraction, really, of going from not the real thing, but an object of the real thing, to
three-dimensional.
A representation of that, a photograph of that. We see this child here spelling and,
Right.
and using what's called the movable alphabet, and the child who is ready to write. And it sometimes just happens just like that. So you might begin to see, after your child returns to the classroom in January, you might see this kind of explosion of learning at home. You might all of a sudden have a younger child who is pointing to letters all the time and asking you what sound that letter makes. Now, in Montessori, we don't necessarily teach the names of letters because it isn't relevant to learning how to read. But that might be something that you'll notice. You might notice that your child wants to count everything that he sees. You might notice with an older child that they latch on to a topic of real interest and they just want to do a deep dive. And you can support that by going to the library or helping them find appropriate websites to gather information about what that topic is.
Absolutely. I want to add a story. One time, mom was walking along with her child, her young child, early childhood age, probably 4.5, 5 years old maybe, and they were walking along the sidewalk, and they came to an intersection, and of course there was a stop sign there, not a traffic light, but a stop sign. And the little child looked at the sign. Well, mom said, okay, we need to stop and pay attention and, look for cars and all of that. He looked up at the sign and he just started to go, stop. That sign says stop. And the little child was so excited. And, once a child learns to read, it's like they're in a whole new world. They never go back because there's everything opens up for them, that was kind of closed off. But it's so exciting to the child when those big explosions happen. And as you said, though, Christine, with the older child, you might not notice it so much if you're not paying attention. You know, that whole thing about they get so excited about a particular topic and they start to read everything they can find and look up everything. If you're not paying close attention, you might not know, but do pay close attention because you're going to find that so fun.
Right, because it's not necessarily a new skill.
No,
It could be a new interest. It just becomes all encompassing
that's right.
for your
Yep.
child. We talked a little bit about concentration, but this we really can't talk enough about concentration, especially as Montessorians. I mean, that really is the base of everything that happens in a Montessori classroom. Um, and part of the reason that it's so important and powerful is not so the child can learn more or we can teach them more. It's because of this, what some people have called flow. This idea of flow that the child gets into, and we experience it too. When you're really involved in something that is important to you, that is maybe that you're really enjoying doing, that you feel yourself mastering the steps of whatever it is, that sense of flow that happens. Or some of you might be runners, and that's a place where runners talk a lot about this flow. It's like everything else around them, they're aware of it, but they're not focusing on it.
Right.
So you might begin to see some of that. The look on the face of this young man who's cutting an apple.
I know. I love it.
And the dressing frame that
Yes.
our little friend is doing here. It's just this intense, everything else is kind of out there. I don't have to focus on that anymore. So if you see that at home, don't be alarmed by it. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't interrupt it.
Yes. Yes, don't interrupt it. I have had parents say to me, well, he pays attention too much to this one thing.
Oh,
Really worried about that. And so, please do understand that this is a good thing.
yes.
And it not only is it helping your child's brain to develop that skill of focusing and attending and staying with something, that resilience and just that idea that we can really get involved in something is so important. So let it happen and enjoy it and just watch it. Another really big thing that happens in January in the Montessori classroom is that children that we maybe have seen up until that point, and particularly into the holiday season, which now starts like the middle of October and goes to the middle of December, right? That because there's a lot going on in a child's life and a lot of special things and a lot of different kinds of things, we might see your child in the classroom as needing more support, as wanting to be closer to us, wanting to interact with us more, feeling like they can't do for themselves and they need us to do it for them. January, that can really switch.
Yeah.
We see the child who's now really taking pride in putting on her own shoes. The toddler who is just so carefully and with such beautiful control of movement able to pour.
I love the tongue. You gotta love the tongue sticking out there.
Yeah, right. That is a sign of concentration in younger
It
children.
definitely is.
You notice that. So you might see at every age, wherever age your child is, you might see this real blossoming of independence, maybe in a way that you've not seen before, or in a way that you haven't seen for a while, and that your child is returning to that. Children, especially the young ones, want to do it for themselves. And I think one of the things that's most difficult for us as adults is that we're really very product oriented.
Yes.
Our job is to get it done, cross it off the list, do it efficiently, do it well, move on to the next thing. A child, and even into adolescence, they're into the product of it. They're into the process
Mm-hmm.
of getting something done, the how and the why and the what and what's involved in this. The elementary age student might be interested in that process in large part because he or she is doing it with friends.
Right.
And what we see in an elementary classroom, especially in January, is along with this growing independence, we might see a different quality in interactions with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A lot of what happens in the elementary classroom as they're developing a different level of social emotional skills is that they're working together, but they have to negotiate, they have to compromise, they have to solve problems together, they have to reach conclusions together. So your older child, you might find, is much more interested in having discussions with you about the how and the why of something getting done.
Right.
And independence can be not just self-care, self-help skills, like in the photographs here, but independence can be solving a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It can be maybe questioning about the way that you do something and suggesting, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'd like to try it my way.
Right.
And rather than being threatened by that or feeling like, hey, wait a second, why is my child not going along with the program
Right.
here? If you can think of that as a positive thing, that's a different higher order level of thinking that's going on in your elementary student's mind. And talking through that with them, you can be part of that problem solving process that helps them become growing independent. Because believe it or not, at some point, your child's contact with you is going to be more on the phone maybe than it's going to be live and in person. And you want your child to be able to go out into the world and be able to solve problems, get along with other people, enjoy learning.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's
All right, let's see what else January holds. So this sense of community, this sense of we are a we are a group of people that spend a lot of time together.
mm-hmm.
I had classrooms sometimes that would refer to themselves as my school family.
Right.
There's very much a sense of that, and there's something very, very magical that happens with a group of children. Um, the the divisiveness that we sometimes see in adult communities are not typical of Montessori children's communities. They are very accepting of one another. They are very understanding of one another. They get that we all have strengths and we all have challenges, and they want to help and they want to support. And Dr. Montessori tells a story about a younger child who was pouring some water into a glass and ended up pouring water all over the table. And another child, an older child, came up, and his immediate reaction was, don't worry that you spilled the water. I can show you how to clean it up. And next time you do it, I bet you'll be able to do it even better. It's that kind of spontaneous thing that we get to see in a Montessori classroom that is truly magical. As a teacher, it's a wonderful thing to see. But again, you can celebrate that when you see that in your child, that natural urge to want to help others. With younger children, it might be your child's urge to help you. Maybe they want to set the table. Maybe they want to feed the dog. Maybe they're a toddler and they just want to make sure that their dirty clothes get in the washing machine like the other clothes. But with an elementary age student or an adolescent age student, they're really thinking about their place in their society and their community. And it wouldn't be at all uncommon that an elementary age student might have some thoughts about, hey, mom, what if we bought an extra bag of dog food and we took it to the animal shelter for the dogs that live there? Those are the kinds of things that you really would want to encourage. That sense of I am part of a larger community and I want to help.
Absolutely. And we see that so often after the first of the year. They've really bonded and, created this wonderful community.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we've talked about some of these things that you might see at home. wanting to get dressed. If you have a young child who has decided that it is time to dress herself, a couple of suggestions that might make that go more smoothly, because we all know that mornings have to be product driven and they have to be efficient because we've all got someplace we need to be, right?
That's right.
Choosing the outfit the night before and laying it out somewhere in your child's room so that that decision's been made. If you are not sure how to support your child with going through the task of putting on her own pants, of pulling a shirt over her head, about putting on shoes, my guess is that most every Montessori teacher would be more than happy to tell you the lesson that we give children in the classroom and how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You might, with your older student, begin, as I said, for them to show a real interest in wanting to help around the home. If they don't, it is not a bad time of year to introduce the idea of, hey, you know what? We're all important members of this family, and there's a lot to do to keep this family going and running smoothly, and I need your help. And maybe provide a list of 4 or 5 tasks, chores, that your child could do. Maybe let them choose 2 to start.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think the other thing we don't ever want to forget about is family meetings.
Yes.
Family meetings happen once a week if you're faithful with them. And this kind of thing is a really great thing to be able to bring up at a family meeting and say, you know, we all live here and there are things that have to be done in order for our house to run smoothly, for our life to run smoothly. And so now that we're in the new year, let's see how we can help each other out and what kinds of things we can help each other with. And that there your list comes in, Christine, that you were talking about, and maybe picking a couple of things from that list, each person in the family. And you know, that list will get very much shorter if everybody pitches in. So it's a great thing for families to do.
And honestly, I mentioned this with older children, but even very, very young children have things that they can do to contribute. So just think about kind of where your child is developmentally, just from watching. And that'll give you some ideas about what your child would be able to do successfully, maybe with a short little lesson, but let them all contribute. The other thing that you might notice in yourself, actually, and in your children, is that we all need more rest. We all need more sleep in January. And with this calm, with this concentration, with this explosion into learning, with this I want to be independent, all of these wonderful things take energy.
They do.
And so you might notice that your child comes home and really needs more quiet time in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time of year when you can think twice about providing a lot of after-school activities. Maybe once a week, a child has plays basketball or goes to an art class or dance class or whatever it is. But this can also be a really wonderful time of year to get home from school, settle in, help with making dinner. It's a wonderful time for you and your child to talk to each other. It's still so important at every single age, starting with infancy through adolescence, to read to our children or to read with our children. It's one of the number one factors in having a child who's a successful reader at every age, is to read with them.
Yeah.
So some things that you might see at home. So do we have any questions?
We don't. We have a couple of people with us, but they're must be taking it all in. They're absorbing it and reflecting on behaviors and looking forward to January as well.
So this idea of, just you can benefit from the calm of January at home, as well as we get to benefit from that in the Montessori classroom. So doing things with your child, spending time together as a family. I know that we all tend to make New Year's resolutions, and we all get really, really busy, and life happens, and sometimes those resolutions don't have quite the follow through. But the time that you put into your child when they're still living in your home is just, I can say that because Lorna and I both have adult children.
That's true.
It is an invaluable gift that you can give to your child, but it also is an invaluable gift for you to really develop that strong bond of caring with your child. So I think that's,
is that our last slide?
I think that's our last slide. Yeah. So I hope you all have a wonderful happy January together.
Yes.
Enjoy the weather, whatever kind of weather you have where you live.
And do enjoy your holidays, even though things are not routine, they're not consistent. Enjoy them because it's a very special time of year, often very magical time of year. And then then you can really, just sort of mellow into January and mellow back into your routines and your regular home life. All those visitors go home, meals come back to normal, getting up, things that we kind of as adults go, oh, it's the same old, but for the children, it's like a comfort blanket to be back in the routine and to have that consistency. And that's what allows them to experience all these things that Christine has been talking about today. So really enjoy the holidays and then enjoy January as well.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being with us today. Some emails here, and Lorna did mention the Family Alliance library of videos. It's quite amazing and quite extensive, and I would really encourage you to take a look and see what's there.
Yes, for sure. Lots of good stuff.
Lots of good stuff.
Thank you, Christine, for taking some time with us today before you do whatever holiday things you're going to do. We're glad to see you. We'll see you again, I hope, in the next couple of months or so. And thanks everybody for joining us. Have a good holiday season.